Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the season of Empowered Conversations, where I have amazing conversations with extraordinary people who are out in the world doing beautiful things in service to others, as all around just living their best lives. And let me tell you, that is none other than my guest today, Scott Campbell, who I've been a part of his groups for quite some time as well. He is amazing. He's joining us from the UK today. And let me tell you a little bit about Scott. So, Scott is a mentor and marketing expert for coaches. And through his programs, he creates successful coaches being uniquely themselves. His number one philosophy is simplicity over complexity. Scott himself has gone from meltdown to a thriving coaching business in the last 3 years, all the while spending more time with his family and playing golf twice a week. Love that. You got to have play, guys. You got to be playing. You got to be loving and living your life. So he deeply understands how coaches spend time internally suffering imposter syndrome because they know they have a gift, a talent, and the ability to help others, but struggle to make it work consistently. The gift Scott gives his clients is to completely transform all of that through his Build and Scale program. Through this program, he guides and supports his clients to choose expansion and develop skills to do the work they love, as well as choose income with simplicity, not complexity. His coaching clients have made over 30 million collectively, and Scott is changing people's lives at a phenomenal level. His greatness is that as an empath with a soft, warming energy, Scott naturally radiates a safe space, really listening and sitting in the presence of his clients. Scott sees the coach that you have the potential to become. Guys, without further ado, woo! Drum roll, please. Help me in welcoming Scott Campbell. What's
Hey,
up?
hey, Stephanie, thank you for that lovely intro.
You're so welcome. I love your rhinoceros. Golly, did I not add like several different syllables to that?
We might come to that during the conversation. There's a few in here, so there's a reason.
Oh, no, I want to hear all about that. I want to hear all about that. So what part of the UK are you in, Scott?
So for people who are just outside London, the most iconic big thing that people know is near Stansted Airport. So I'm about 8 miles east of Stansted Airport in a very tiny hamlet where it has about 10 houses on the end of a village, so in the middle of nowhere in Essex, but close enough to civilization as we know it.
Gotcha. I live in a suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's not a tiny little village, but I love that. When I was in Amsterdam, my friend Brad Patton and I, we went into a windmill village, and there was like a chocolate factory, and it was just so beautiful. Like we took the train, through the all, meadows and valleys and lots of greenery, and then we come upon this village, and it was a really unique and beautiful experience over there. So I haven't been to London. I have a good friend who's from that area.
That's where I was born and brought up. I was brought up in East End of London. Most people is like the old thing of London with the Cockneys. I'm actually a Cockney by birthright, although
a Cockney.
But there's picked up a bit of an Essex twang over the years that's added to it. So,
love it. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's such an honor to have you here. I've been a part of your groups and communities for probably since the pandemic. I think Siobhan introduced me to you.
Yeah, I think it was April of last year.
Yeah. Okay. So that was 2021.
and that's when I launched the Become a Successful Coach group and did the 14 lives. I think that's where we connected. I think first, through Siobhan, that I connected through that. So
Yeah,
it seems a lot longer than that in a funny ways. In a lot of ways,
it does.
but
It's
the
hilarious.
yeah, yeah. I mean, our own growth is gone. So there's a lot of things that make it feel like a long time, even though relatively short period of time. So.
Yeah, that pandemic did kind of do that. It's like, what year are we in? What year was that? Like what
Yeah.
time period? What period of time?
I'm always like, was it before? Was it after? Hang on.
Was it during?
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Well, so awesome. Yeah. So, I really like to understand and get to the depth of each person that I'm having this empowered conversation with. And obviously I'm drawn to you. I'm inspired by you. You're an incredible person. I love what you're doing out here in the world,
Yeah.
really giving back and really out here, through the empowerment that you've allowed for yourself, you're empowering others in your special modality. And at the core of that, at the heart of that, Scott, is your why. And
Yeah.
what I want to discover, and as much as you would like
Mm.
to share, you mentioned
Nothing off the table.
meltdown. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing off
Nothing's
the
off the table.
table.
Nothing's off the
Right.
table.
And what all experiences, what life lessons, what epiphanic moments, what all led Scott Campbell to being where he is today and doing for the world that
Mm,
what he's doing.
cool. A short question with some could be like how many long answers. I think
Love it all.
I'll tell you the interesting thing is and I've struggled with this for a long time. I've worked with coaches. I've got a great coach called Louise Daniels, who's been amazing over the last couple of years. And I'm more happy now, if you like, owning the stuff that I know that I'm good at and create and stuff like that. And actually, my why is slightly different than a few, I think, most other people, where they know their purpose, particularly in the coaching world, where something's happened to you and you've got through it, and then you want to help others, go through that journey or not suffer the same way that you suffered. My why is quite interesting because my why, I don't directly impact. So let me explain that, and then I'll come probably back to the story there. But my why is it's essentially I want to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
But the difference is with my why is, for me, I don't directly impact it. I've come to terms with the fact that I realize that my genius part is actually working with coaches that are going to make big impacts in the world and the ripple effect of that coaches. And so how I fulfill my why is actually through supporting, guiding other coaches. And essentially, the more clients I can help coaches get, the more lives that they're impacting positively.
Absolutely.
Because it's just not, the clients, it's like the family around them, the things and also generational, because I think, how I, through my own personal growth with coaches, I treat my children differently than what I would have done, and the toxic stuff that I inherited from my parents and stuff. So essentially they're going to teach, they're going to be different with their children because of the impact that the coaching that I've had on myself. So and it's just a generational thing like that. So for me, it's the why is simple in terms of making the world a better place. The bit that I love through it is, for me, is the more coaches I can support and guide, and that's why I love working with like a whole stream of different kind of coaches, not just a particular business coach. I think if I was just business coaches, I'd feel too I feel it's too financial, it's too
Right.
about the money. So I like the fact that most of my coaches are, completely different coaches, whether they're health coaches, grief coaches, transformational coaches, like, a lot of life coaches, obviously. But I actually like that bit that there's a real mixture of different coaches rather than just business coaches or something, so.
Right. But you help business. I mean, it's a broad gamut of.
Yeah.
And the key thing that I heard you mention there is the toxicity that was permeated onto you through your parents. So in essence, what I'm hearing, it's that is your drive. Like they're like myself, I consider myself a worthiness life mindset health coach.
Yeah,
And you've got, coaches, health coaches, like you said, life coaches, business coaches, mindset
yeah,
coaches, we're transformational coaches.
yeah,
And so there is, like, in essence, you really are a transformational coach because you are creating the roadmap and the building blocks for those that are in that specificity of
yeah,
coaching, whether it's health coaching, life coaching.
yeah,
Um, so there is a drive from whatever you've dealt with and what you said that like you're doing for your children through how you're showing up.
yeah,
So yeah, that there's still, but see, and that is such a great emotional purpose.
yeah. And a big part of it is for me, and if you look at the last few years particularly, is really really living who I truly am as well.
Hmm.
So it's things like for me to say I'm an empath would 3, 4, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that, or even be kind of fighting it, and even being an introvert, but being a confident introvert in that sense, where that I know what I'm good at, I know how to help people, but it's actually being that's different than being, if you like, just kind of extroverty and being sort of kind of things, and I think it's important that you do that. So I attract a lot of like-minded people because of now I'm being truly who I am. But it took me a long time to find that space. And the reality was I was always kind of, I think everyone's been through this, where you're being who you're expected to be.
Hmm.
Um, there was
Right.
something
People pleasing.
yeah, yeah. And it was just it was just the things about getting, I mean, I even remember the as crazy as it sounds, but the um when I was like kind of going into the big world of looking for jobs to work, and I didn't enjoy school particularly well. um
I don't think
what I mean,
anybody does. You remember
no,
the Pink Floyd song, "We don't need no education." I used to sing that to my parents.
yeah, and I think I think the power of self-education is super powerful. That's really
Oh,
untapped. So I mean, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're okay because you've obviously got an academic background." So I got one O level in maths, and that's because I used to play darts a lot, right? That I was really
yeah.
good at maths, and so I've got no qualifications in that sense, a lot of kids, but it was the self-education that I went on myself, and I think that's more powerful than anything. And I've been that with my kids, like really about what they
Yes,
want
yes,
to
yes, yes,
they
yes.
want to things that, because you just see people, they just when they, and even kids, more so, but if it's something that we want to learn about, a
Mhm.
desire to learn about it, and the willpower is so much stronger than
Yeah.
if we're kind of forced to learn about it. So the power of self-education. But I always felt weird as a kid. I always felt my family are, it's got to be like, well, very loud and out there, and I always used to feel like, stop shouting, even my head just like going, and I always felt it was a bit, I just felt I was a bit different and weird, and it very quiet, and so I struggled with that. But then really the successes I had through my career and stuff, and then when I went out on my own, if you like,
Mhm.
the successes I had early on, um even though they were good, it kind of left me in a bit of a not being able to deal with stuff that when it did go wrong, And when, for me, like everyone has their kind of rock bottom period, but when things collapse a little bit, if you like, and this was before 3 years ago, this is about 11 years ago, just when
Mhm.
sort of yeah, my dad had prostate cancer, my sister had a hemorrhage, my brother committed suicide, unfortunately, my younger brother, and that for me was a real,
Right.
because nothing had really gone on. It wasn't even many deaths. The only people died in our family that I remembered was old people. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
like there was no
Yeah.
shock deaths and all that. So dealing with that, well, I didn't deal with it, and then a roller coaster from that, like losing the house and everything. But then we kind of picked ourselves up. And one thing I realised through that whole process was that, we have this joke that a lot of couples say and things. As long as we've got each other and got, we'll be okay. Um, we kind of were in that situation and we were okay, and then our little princess come from it, Leah, our third child, and so that period really kind of set me up to being more about who I was and owning who I was. And I took some drastic steps around that, about cutting off my family and stuff like that. There's some very drastic steps I took to do it, but then absolutely being able to live who I was, if you like, in every environment. So not just when I turn up for work or whatever like that, was, you know, every conversation, every environment that I'm in, that I'm being who I am, you know, and being myself. And then, and the period of, well, it's kind of, you mentioned in the intro about the meltdown part that you asked about. There was, so now it's the lockdown was, a, you know, for us in UK, it was March 2020. So
it was for us as well.
Yeah, I think similar, pretty much the whole sort of main worlds, if you like. And there was some people like Australia, I think, followed afterwards, wasn't it? But initially around that time, for me, as bad as it was around the world and what was going on around the world, it was the perfect moment for the world to stop for me. You know, and
a lot of us,
yeah,
a lot of us.
And I feel like, it's funny, I feel like the introverts won out of that a little bit, because I get it for, you know, for extroverts being at home and not being in, but, you know, stir crazy. But for the introverts, it was almost beautiful, you know. And it was a little bit of, wow, we're allowed to just stop for a minute. And and leading up to that period, the year prior to that, so in terms of, so when I started working with coaches 12 years ago, when I come out of, if you like, corporate world and started my own business, I found that quite easy. And I think it's because I always treated my projects I was doing as they were my own businesses. So I found that quite easy. And then sort of kind of fell into working with coaches by accident, complete accident initially. And it just turned out, I think, the way that I love the way, you know, coaches are, in terms of coaches are very heart-centered people, you know. And so I really attached to that really well. But then in that period, you know, built a couple of big businesses, a couple of agencies, but never really enjoyed that world. Twice had a go at building agencies, which on the surface of it was successful, but inside were really eating me, because I wanted to build agencies that were different from every other agencies. And I built agencies which were exactly like every other agencies. So that really struggled with me. And then in January 2019, between that period and October that year, actually, was probably the meltdown period, me, of really not knowing who I was, or not so much knowing who I was, but what I was bringing to the world, if you like. And I got very ill in January 2019, which was, you know, a collapse, and I was very lucky to survive that. But it kind of put me in a state of 3 months. But it didn't put me in a state of 3 months of being able to reset things. It just made a lot of problems worse, if you like. And then having to go back and, if you like, chase money because, you know, because I got debt because of it and stuff like that. And so it put me in a worse state where I was not being who I was at all. Just, you know, just chasing money and dealing with people that were doing fulfillment for me and all that. They were letting me down, which was a real issue, because when I sort of kind of say something, I feel like my word is, you know, I have to live up to it. And so that put me in a difficult position. And then my daughter was ill for quite a while, where we didn't really know what was wrong with her. And in that period, so it kind of felt like that was a whole blur. And then I got through that around August, September of 2019. And at that stage for me was, I really don't know who I am, and I don't, you know what I want and stuff like that. And there was a few red ends. I joined a program, actually, a sort of mentoring, coaching program, I think. And it's interesting. I joined it when I really couldn't afford it at all. Really, really couldn't afford it, but I still joined it because I felt like I needed to put myself in that position.
Invest.
Yeah. And as great as the program was, it was a little bit of it was interesting, because it was a bit of the route I went down quickly was the wrong route. But here's the thing with this thing. So you get a lot of people that are scared to go down the wrong path. Right? What I learned from that, and I think there is a Jordan Peterson interview somewhere where he talks about this, where
I love him.
and what I learned from it is I went down the wrong path, but going down that path or any path meant that I had a different perspective. And
Yes.
so, when people say, "Oh, I'm not sure where to go," just go one path. It doesn't matter if it's the wrong path, because
Right.
you have to go down that path a little bit to go, well, actually, this is wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I can see it differently from where I am because of what I've learned from going down this wrong path.
Absolutely.
And fortunately for me, the lockdown happened and it allowed me to reset. And then,
Yes.
and for me, and there was something about the lockdown initially. Initially when it started, everyone was saying it was going to be 6 weeks and then back to normal. There was something about it right from the start that I felt was just off on it. And I was actually on another podcast, sort of panel thing, and I was saying about, I think it's going to be a year, and people calling me nuts, people calling me mad, and now,
I
and if
would have been
anything,
one of those people like, "There's no way." And when they started shutting down California, I was like, "There's no way. There's just no
yeah,
way. There's just no way." And
yeah,
then, way.
yeah. And I built so and then and I quickly built this garden office so I could do everything from
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
which
That's awesome.
was the best thing I did really. But yes, it allowed me to really kind of just stop for a minute
Mhm.
and fortunately not go too far. And what path am I going down? And then by well, the universe showing me obviously the way what to do was the fact that some coaches I'd previously worked with got in touch with me
Yeah.
and said, and then because I was still really invested in the coaching world, like around coaches and doing programs and stuff like that, it was I was really like, well, actually, I'm looking at the coaching world and I can see everyone how they're almost doing it the wrong way, and listen to these
Mhm.
so-called, and I could see the guru struggles. So when the first lockdown, a lot of people don't see it, but if you look at the so-called gurus and stuff like that, a lot of them struggled like hell with the first lockdowns periods because
They're
all
used
of a
to being
sudden,
on stage.
yeah, and what happened was actually it flattened it out. So what if you look at it from that stage, right? And I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I've got a video out there I talk about this. If you look at Bill Gates,
Mhm.
Matthew McConaughey, all of these people, right? The two very different people there I've mentioned, but people there. But if you look at different people around the world, right?
Mhm.
That whoever you admired, whoever you looked up to, you have at the principle, with exactly the same position as us, where they couldn't leave their house.
Mhm.
They couldn't
Yep.
be. You saw Bill Gates, on a Zoom calls, using
Yep.
Zoom in his
Mhm.
kitchen.
Mhm.
Exactly. So it's a level playing field, and
Yes.
a lot of these gurus that made themselves, oh, you can't even speak to me unless you pay this much and whatever, because I'm. They actually create themselves a lot more unattainable and didn't know to it. So, for me, it was a really good level playing field in that sense across the world,
Mhm.
um, and yeah, and then I really just felt, and then that was when I really felt. So I started. I was reading The Big Leap at the time, and it was just, for me, it was just like, this is my path. I know where I am now, and that's when I kind of went, actually, it's coaches I really want to work with. They're the people I really love. They're the people
Right.
I want to spend time with. I mean, I've got another business, a golf business, because that's my other love is golf, and we've created another business around that. But but it was coaches that I really do love being around, and also that I could provide a perspective that was different than, I think, the
And
so-called
it's like
guru
you
and other
said,
people.
they're heart-centered. Coaches, operate from a more heart-centered way of
Yeah,
being, and it really is about, through what they've learned and gained for themselves through whatever, travesty they've been through, they're wanting to empower others, to enlighten
yeah,
others, and that's elating to be around that energy.
yeah, yeah. It is, yeah. And it's just, when you listen to people, I listen to people's stories, and even when I get my clients message me saying, they've got another client or whatever, I'm just, for me, that is just so unbelievable, because I know how they're going to impact that person's life, and
Mhm.
so that was it. And then, so I really found my calling, and then, not coincidentally, this book, The Go Giver. If anyone hasn't
Yes!
read it,
I thought
should
that was
read
the
it.
go-giver, but it's like,
Yeah,
let me bring you closer. Let's see, hold on, let me bring you a
if
little
you can.
closer. Yeah,
Oh,
there we go.
there
The
you go.
Go-Giver. I have that book, and from far away, yes.
Yeah. And for me, that again with The Big Leap was quite enlightening around really owning who you are, And then the Go Giver,
Mm-hmm.
another book, was just then another level of what about you. And to be honest, and there was one question, and it's interesting. So when we met, I started a Facebook group with, and everyone was doing 5-day challenges with.
Yes.
Not, you can zoom out now if you want, because it's a bit. Can zoom
Oh,
back.
what? You're hilarious. Okay.
But that's it. That's better. So a lot of people were doing the challenges and stuff like this, all this on Stanford, and at that time it was interesting. So my coach asked me a question which was just a complete defining moment for me, because at the same time I was reading the Go Giver, so it was all
Mm-hmm.
connected to Go Giver. I don't think she knew I was reading the Go Getter, but it all kind of Go Giver, but it all connected. And that question was that she asked me the people I looked up to. So people like Robin Sharma, Lewis Howes, Dan Martell. A lot of people won't know, he's more the coach for the SaaS business.
I know all those. Yeah.
So, and there was 5 people on that list, and then she said about, if you was where they are, what would you be doing? What content would you be doing? What would you be giving? And that combined with reading the Go Giver, it just, and then, so rather than doing a 5-day challenge or whatever, what I did is I did the 14-day lives, which were, if you like, sharing the best stuff, if you like, without no hard sells in between them and all that. There was some call to action near the end, but there was no hard sales for it. And that set me off really, in terms of generating a lot of clients there without even asking for clients. And yeah, that just set me off. That really kind of taught me, actually, if I really give out, then I'm really going to, connected with people that that really, but just really valued the stuff really. And that sort of put me on that path of literally giving the value. And and obviously there is a process around it, and this is what I teach. You've got to have a associate, but it's until there's a sales conversation, when someone says, look, I want to talk about working with you, then everything should be the value journey. It should be a value journey that you're giving all the way up to that point. And you can do that within a structure of creating clients. It's not just giving content, as most people think, but the content, just giving content, just doing content it's not a big part of it. It's probably only about 20% of the mix, interestingly, but which is interesting, because most coaches, when they think I'm struggling to get a client, they get, I need to do some content.
So walk us through a little bit about what you are explaining here.
So I'll try and simplify it, because that's my thing. So most people, the coaches at the moment, with coaches are struggling to get clients, right? Their first thing is they think, right, I've got to do content. I've got to do, they go on all these webinars, or they go, right, I've got to do TikTok, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And reality is that's the worst thing that you can possibly do. One of the things I teach in my thing in the building scale is a guaranteed success formula, which is, I think, if I get my finger right, this one method, which is the one niche, one program, one strategy.
I'm gonna zoom in real quick. All right, hold on.
Well, you need to go that way.
It won't let me do that. You would have to move your camera.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, the one method. There you go. Okay, NSP or N, is that?
Yeah, NSP. So one niche, one program, one strategy. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, look. Oh, you're gonna bug me now, because I hate my camera being that low. It's always the wrong way, isn't it? The other way. That's why. Anyway.
There we go. Yeah. That was it. Yeah.
There we go. Anyway, so not quite, but we'll talk about it later. So yeah, it's just one niche, one program, one strategy, right? Because doing all of the other stuff gets really confusing. But again, so the coaches go, but I need to do content. I need to do some content, and then the content they doing content for the sake of doing content, means it's very incongruent with your actual whole message. And so all you do is actually, coaches end up confusing people, because there'll be loads of coaches that you're connected to that if we went down your friend list, right, off air, we wouldn't do it here, obviously, and I'll go, what do they do? And you'll be like, well, I'm not completely sure. Yeah, and they go, don't know. And then things, and they're doing lots of content, and for them, and they might be, oh yeah, I'm doing lots of content, this is what I am, but it's really not clear. And So doing the content is about 20% of the strategy, where it needs to be tactical, the content, and it needs to be congruent with your overall message. So you get known for something as well. You get known for doing particularly one thing at a, if we go into too
Can
deeper.
I ask a question though?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, go on.
I consider myself batshit multi-passionate. Okay, so I have my empowered conversations.
Yeah,
And I also have D for Rick and Licious, which is my cooking show. But
yeah,
the core concepts, I mean, it's easy to say, yep, eat healthy. Okay, I know I need to eat healthy, but if you're not eating healthy, and so that's a mindset. So so what I'm doing is I'm combining the mindset piece, which is tied to the heart set, tied to your
yeah.
why, of why you want to choose to be healthy. What outcome do you want to be able to experience? But it's not even just about the healthy, it's also about the empowered way in which you now exist.
Mm.
Um, when you are able to realize the ownership that you have over your life. And so I feel like, and I'm using myself as an example because,
Yeah,
and I feel like if somebody were, if you were to, somebody, you were to ask somebody, well, what does Stephanie do? Well, she's defa-rick-and-licious. She's healthy and she's all, she's out here talking about being positive. I don't, I mean, right. Like, yeah, Christina's saying, what if you do multiple things? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm doing multiple things, but it's still
yeah.
like an overall umbrella of empowered living,
The,
empowered choices.
yeah, the multiple things is fine as long as they really are connected and not a red herring. So most people are doing multiple things because I'm not too sure about this because I'm not making money from it. So I need to sell that, right? And that's
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, 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 yeah. I
yeah.
got
And I had this in a conversation with Jody yesterday, but and I mentioned that's a no, it wasn't Jody. Sorry, it was Trader. That's a red herring of the universe testing it. So most people will start doing multiple things, but if you really did have spent some time with them, there'll be one thing that truly is the passion in there, right? And there'll be some other cross things. Like for me, like the golf business is there, and I struggled with that a little while. Like, should I be doing the golf business as well as this? Are they just gonna? And actually, they are connected because they're all about facilitating people to get more business. Because the golf business needs networking with each other. So essentially, the overarching of helping people get business and get new clients is the overarching theme. How I show up online is through obviously doing the work with the coaches, and but if you look at people that got multiple things, if you really did challenge and question it, unless they are very connected, you will see that there's a lot of, well, I'll try and do that because that. So how many people, like an example, right? How many people coaches go, well, do you know what? I really love doing that, but that brings in the money, so I still do that.
Oh, a lot of people, a
Yeah,
lot of people.
yeah,
And, we do have to, to pay our bills and feed ourselves and
exactly.
stuff. And,
But the
cause like
problem is they, yeah,
yeah,
and the
like
problem is where they look at it, and but what you do is you don't just shut off one and then start the other. You have to have a kind of blend of where it takes over it, and then it forces you to do it. So, but to do that, you need to really be then going, well, actually, where do I focus on the things? So, if you look to my profiles, 2.5 years ago, it would still be unclear of whether I work with coaches or whatever, but it becomes clearer over time that gone, right, now it's all coaches now.
mhm, mhm.
So you have to have a strategy that kind of goes, actually, I'm going to wean that out to do that. And then it's going to come to the point where it's all of that. And so it's not just a case of just, right, I'm going to switch off and stop doing that. But
Right.
most people haven't got a strategy of when they're doing multiple things to go, well, actually, the one that I really want to do
Yeah.
is what's the strategy so that I'm doing more of that in the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that's cooking and teaching people how to eat super scrumptiously delicious food that's extremely very
Mm.
healthy. And but again, it's easy to say, okay, eat healthy, but if you're not doing it, that's tied
Mm.
to some sort of inner inner worth and worth and value that
Yeah,
maybe there
absolutely.
needs to also be expanded upon and excised in a much greater way. So then they are going, you know what, I'm worthy
Mm.
of treating my body better. I'm worthy,
Yeah.
and because like I've created a cooking show.
Mm.
It's not out there yet, but the concept of it is combining it. So it's a cooking show. We're
Mm.
making healthy, scrumptiously delicious food, but my guest on each episode comes to the table with a form of whether it's an empowered living.
Yeah.
So I have my guest on, we're talking about the healthy food, but also this guest is like, say, a women's
Mm.
empowerment coach. So during the course of talking about the healthy food and making the healthy food, delicious, I mean, together, it's like, so tell me, Edna. I'm using Edna as an example. She always comes to my mind first for some reason. I love her. She's, I'm like, so tell me, Edna, what do you do? I know you're being a female and women's empowerment coach. How do you start your day? And she's like, oh, well, I start my day, writing 5 things I'm grateful for. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, similarly, I start my day, writing, blah, blah, blah. And then that's it. And then we're back to talking about the food because it's a cooking show.
Yeah.
But there's a gold nugget. There's a gold nugget of mindset, of mindful wisdom that also comes along
But there's
with.
always there's different elements of everything. One of the things I have that I talk about with my clients is what I call principles framework. Right.
Mhm,
So it might be, so your end game is that they're living healthier and things, right? So there's
yeah.
an end thing there. So for me is, that the coaches have got a successful coaching business
Mhm,
that is on their in line with their world that they want, and still making a positive impact on people.
mhm,
But the elements of it, that there's different elements of it that create that. So it's just not, for example, of if I just said like how the way that I teach people like to start is Facebook organic and learning how to do that. Now that will take you to a certain level, but then
mhm.
there's other bits of that. There's a systems, and then there's more strategies you sort of kind of build on it. So there's all different elements of there as you go. For me, as you go through the levels of the first sort of 2-3 grand that people need to bring in, because when if you're struggling, it's just hit miss, then you're still in survival mode, which
Right.
is not a very attractive mode for potential clients.
Mm-mm.
So it's getting people to that stage first of all. It's simple, but then I can teach them how to get clients very quickly using Facebook organic, for example, right?
Mhm.
Now, but the thing is that as a long term, that won't work because we need to build on it and build on it, if you like. So there's all different elements of creating that successful coaching business. You can't just do it on that one thing, because what if the algorithm changes on Facebook overnight?
Right. And it
So
does quite
which
often.
happens. Yeah, yeah. You had this with, I mean, with uh, with what's it, with YouTube? No, with Google Ads. Quite a while ago when I was running the agency, about 9-10 years ago, possibly might be longer than that actually. And a client contacted me that they said, that, and they were selling a product of someone else's, other manufacturers. So just like I suppose, um, I don't know, like a shop, Walmart will sell something of Panasonic's, for example, from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
American market, right? So they were selling the whole business was selling something else. It was actually these outside sheds things they were selling. So they were selling it completely other else, right? And all of their business come from Google Ads, right?
Mhm.
And they would and that's all they did, right? Because they said, this is working, we'll just take loads of money, getting these orders, we'll process the orders, they deliver them, job
Mhm.
done, and they take their cut from it, right? Then the reason I got in touch with is they were telling me this wonderful story, and I was going, well, why are you getting in touch with me? They said, well, 4 days ago, our ads stopped. Google now won't display our ads, even though we're spending around 50 grand a week on ads.
Mhm.
They won't display our ads because they changed their algorithm, and we're now seen as an affiliate marketer and not as the manufacturer. So they're actually putting up the ads more of the manufacturer than us. And we haven't just seen a decline, we've seen a complete flat line because that was
Right.
their only source of thing. And they said, well, what do we do? So there's always these methods of getting to one thing, but if everything like building a successful coaching business, there's different elements. I touch a lot on mindset, and that's why I always kind of
Yeah.
talk about my building scale being program being it's mentoring, coaching, and training, because there's an element all three. And that's where I feel that I'm unique in my
Mhm.
and coming from it, all of them at parts as an empath and as someone that cares about his clients and actually
Yeah.
cares about the results. But there's loads
Mhm.
of different elements on that. So you've got your principles which add up to that. And that's
Mhm.
where you'll have this overriding archer, and the cooking, the conversations is all part of the principles that create the overall result and outcome that people want. And that's what coaches a little bit don't kind of get. They might is thinking about what is that overall thing that I do for people, that I,
Mhm.
that feeling, that emotions that I want them to have, and then what are the elements that create that, not in detail, but in what I call big message. So like first one could be mindset, second one be nutrition, a healthy diet,
Mhm.
exercise, anything
Yeah.
like that. But there's loads of different elements, but it's understanding for a coach which actually these principles. And then you're when you're doing content, so for you a principle would be eating, healthy eating would be a massive principle part of that. The mindset would be another one. So when you understand that's part of your journey of how you get people to where you want to get them, then the cooking thing makes sense. The cook show
Yes.
makes sense. Having the mindset people on while you're cooking makes sense,
Yes.
right? Rather than just being what most people do, scattergun, going, I'm a coach, but I need to do, oh, that was good content. I'll do content on this today. Then I'll do content on that. Then I'll do content on this. Oh, now I need to be vulnerable. And now I need to do, and then
Gotcha.
actually it just becomes very scattergun.
Gotcha. This is big.
Yeah.
Yes, when you something just clicked. Something clicked when you said that.
And
Yes.
that's where you got to kind of and the bit initially, so the bit that people then struggle with, even though there's so much talk and stuff like that around your who do I actually serve, what do I sell, most coaches actually, if you ask them, it's like, and I asked this question to kind of potential clients. So if I said I want to work with you tomorrow
Mhm.
and I want to pay you now and I want to start working with you tomorrow, what have you got that we can get going on? And they give me about
Right.
20 different options. And now I think
Yeah.
I might think
Yeah.
about that. Well, what
Where
are these options?
yeah, yeah. Like, and the most important the most in my opinion,
Yeah.
the most important aspect or part or where the beginning is the self-discovery. It's
Hmm.
really like whether it's a coach going, okay, I want to put this out into the world. It's like, okay, like you were saying, like
Hmm.
what is your core message? Because and that's in alignment with
Yeah.
whatever your core values
So,
are.
yeah, if you think about when we're going through our day, particularly coaches, I think is the industry where more than any other industry, people do self-discovery and do education, on a day basis. Always listen to audiobooks, always listen to webinars, listen to
Mhm.
hopefully my videos. Anyway, one of the things, so there's always things. And what happens is whenever we listen into a bit, you'll actually catch that you actually come up with loads of different content ideas yourself,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah.
But the,
Oh
but
yeah.
the problem is most coaches then put that out. So go, well, I've listened to this today, and oh, Steph said this, and it was really good. So I'm going to do a bit of content about that, right? Whereas, I'm the same. I have all of these content ideas. I have
Mhm.
too many content ideas. I have a little Trello on my phone, which I keep a track of them. But when I look at them, I write down, then I look at it, and rather than thinking detail, I just big message. What is the top line of that? So it might be principle summary, for example, or it might be um, knowing your worth, for example, right?
Mhm.
So might be that, and I'll look at that and I'll go, right, okay, where does that? If I do that piece of content, is it congruent with my overall message? Right, and I stayed away from doing
Right.
a lot of content back when we first met 2 years ago, almost, or a year and a half ago. I did a lot of. I stopped doing it. I didn't do a lot of content that I wanted to do because I knew that if I did it, people would go, "Well, is he a mindset coach? Is he a marketing coach? Is he a business coach? What is he?" Right. So I stayed away from the mindset stuff because it would
Yeah.
confuse people too much. Now, it's interesting that, I talk people on a service level about getting clients quickly. When people start working with me, they'll talk about the mindset is a massive part of it, and a massive part that I deal with, and little processes I have and systems to show people how to simplify things. But I don't lead with that as much because it would confuse people around what type of coach I am.
Right. And mindset is everything. Mindset, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't care who you are, what
yeah,
you do, what you don't do. Your mindset is creating your
yeah,
reality. And I
yeah,
just wanted, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I'm not going to call out anybody else. I'm going to call my own self out, y'all. So you were talking about how, Stephanie, was listening to, for instance, my Empower Conversations, and she was
yeah.
talking about that, or her guest was talking about that. I'm going to do, a piece. I'm going to go live and talk about
Mm.
this. So this, I mean, it recently, some similar happened to me when I was listening to, do you know who Chelsea Handler is?
No, I don't actually
She's
know.
a phenomenal, freaking, absolutely hilarious comedian. I'm determined she's going to be one of my
Okay,
best friends someday. She's on my vision board. Anyway,
awesome.
she has a show called, it's a podcast called, Life Will Be the Death of Me, and that's actually the title of her, one of her autobiography. I think it's her autobiography. And
Yeah,
she had Martha Stewart on as her guest. She always has a guest, someone who's very
right.
famous. But
Yeah,
she also has people calling in asking her for advice. And
brilliant. Yeah,
Chelsea's in your motherfucking face. Like, she's just
brilliant.
like myself. She's gonna tell
Yeah,
you what, like, boom, but it's gonna be in like a really punch in your face, powerful way. But it's gonna come with, with the underlying sense of love and compassion.
yeah,
Like, she's not just being like ugly. I mean, she's being really heart centered in her response. And I was like, and I was on the elliptical and I was listening to her show, and I'm like, oh, I could do that. And like people were calling in asking for advice.
yeah.
And I was like, ask Stephanie. And that's like, and I was like, and then a couple days later, I was like, Jeff Purdue Atkins would be like this awesome co-host. Cause I was thinking, I got to have a co-host. He'd be awesome. So I reached out to Jeff, and I'm like, he's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, but see, so there's that, and that
Mm.
is coming. It's, in October. I promise y'all it's coming.
Brilliant.
And but then, I'm doing Empowered Conversations. This is going to be a weekly, this is obviously
Mm.
going to continue to be a weekly thing. And I'm doing D for Rick and Licious. But it's like in my mind, it's like, because I am out here like
Mm.
empowered living, intentional living,
But and
enough to know way I
that
can
is the
bring
question
that
you have to
to the
ask
table.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the question you have to. You come up with these ideas and you go, is it connected? Is it connected to my overall journey, which I take people on?
And I think I think so. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
I'm asking your honest opinion.
yeah,
But like, well, damn, Stephanie, like that's another area. Like
yeah,
you could be spreading yourself too thin. But then again, well, what else am I going to do? Why not be again talking
yeah,
and empowering and inspiring
mm,
people
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that is, and again, we do these things, and then the other thing is, well, that is great, but for you, it's always pre-framing it that it's part of this thing, and
Yes.
and the actual fact that the people, it would still be the question I'd ask you really to talk about would be like, I get that, wonderful, but actually, how can you help me if I want to reach out? Why would I reach out to you, and how can you help me with that? So you have to keep pre-framing it. So even you're doing these shows, it's almost that there's a bit at the end, or there's a bit of a start that just says, like, and it's really clear about actually all of this is part of that. I can help you with this, or I hate the bit of the
Right.
help, or I can empower you to do this. And I think that's a strong word for what you're doing. If it's the empowerment and the empowering people, because there'll be a lot of people that will be motivated, but they'll go like, wow, I want to be like Steph, how can she get on camera, do this is amazing, and so that's where you kind of combine and go, right, if you want to be an empowered journey like this, is this where you start from, getting, go on contact or download
Yeah.
this, whatever like that. So if you've got that continuous kind of, this is the next step for people that want to know more, or want me to support and guide them and empower them in some way, and if that stays congruent, then that's how you bring it back to that message. So you're always pre-framing it that this is part, that I'm doing this today, the cooking, but this is part of the whole
Yes.
empowerment thing. I'm doing employment conversations. It's
100%.
because it's part of this
100%.
empowering, whoever it is,
Makes sense.
and then you get away from. So you interestingly sit in an area where the most people get this niche thing, right? Which really really bugs me a lot when I see it. When I see people charging for it as well about the niche, but the like courses about find your niche and all that, right? Because it's actually really simple. So most people go too much of the niche is there's two parts of a niche, and that is it, right? So, and even I used to do, I think 6 parts of a niche and overdo it, right? But reality is that as I've gone through everything of mine and gone, how can I simplify it? How can I simplify it so people can make it easier? But with the niche, there's just 2 parts of it, right? There's who and there's what, right? And one of them can be really broad as long as the other one is really specific. So if you look at people like Brendan Burchard's probably a good one.
Yes, I love him.
Even Tony
Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins. Yeah.
I was just thinking
love him too. He's on my vision board too.
Right,
so Lisa Nichols.
You look at these 2 people, right? Tony Robbins and Brendan Burchard, right? Massive businesses, massive impact, fantastic. Yeah. If you ask them who their niche is in terms of a who, it's anyone. If you go to a UPW, look at the audience range. Tony Robbins has from 16-year-olds to 89-year-olds, right? And everything in between, different ethnicities, different, races, everything, different religions coming together, everything, right? In between. So he hasn't got a who. Same as Brendan Burchard. If you go to one of his shows and you look at the audience, right? It's a mixture of everyone. There's not a who. But the what is really, really powerful. And that's what they really clear on of what they give people, right? And so it's the same when coaches, when they look at their niche, they get too much about it needs to be women, it needs to be this, it needs to be that, and then they get but yeah, I do work with men sometimes because they're worried about shutting out, that bit of business that might come in, right? It's that scaremonger about, I don't want to not say I don't deal with men because if a man comes to me, I definitely could, because I need a client. And so we get too much into this, it's a woman, it's age 35, between 50 and stuff like this, right? But reality is, unless there's something really specific, like teenagers or, mums, teenage mums or something like that, unless it's something really specific, so that can be really specific. And if that's really specific, then the what is almost irrelevant. It can be broad, right? It can almost be like, I help teenage mums live a much better, healthier life, right? So that's very broad, but that works because the one about teenage mums is really specific, right? And the other thing as well, so with you the who is irrelevant almost, right? But the what needs to be really specific around empowering people to live their best life or their healthiest life. And then all of that connects with it in together. And mine is, I mean my who is quite broad in terms of just coaches, because I work with coaches that are brand new coaches. I work with coaches that have been experienced for years. I really like working with coaches that have been on high-end programs with so-called gurus, because I know they're not going to get what they need from that. They're not going to get the support or the loving support they need, or the high touch support that they need from that. And I know that I can grab someone that's been on a high and go, well, actually, this is what they were talking about, and put it in a way, and they go, oh my God, And also the belief, it's like believing in people in such a powerful way. Not believe themselves. They're not going to get that from a high-end client coaching, because we've all been on these high-end coaches programs where you go on them for a particular person, but you actually never get any contact with that person.
Yeah, right.
And that's where they fail. That's why there's a big failure of it and whatever, because then it doesn't match your expectations. You're not working with the person who inspired you in the first place. So it's a big part of my tell that I'm doing the delivery, and I'm the one that does the onboarding calls, and I do the delivery of it, because then you're working with me after you. So there's a big, and so the coaches I work with are from far and wide. So it's just coaches. But the really specific thing, and the really specific is about getting clients quickly and growing a successful coaching business, right? So, and building and scaling that successful coaching business is the more specific thing that with coaches. Now, I talk about getting clients quickly a lot because that's the service level that most coaches are struggling with, right?
You do. I'd say that again. Can you please say that again?
Getting clients quickly is what they're struggling with.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then again, And a lot of that is, there's too much, but a lot of it is because, again, with the content, we're doing coaches do content to try and get clients. But if you turn it around and go, actually, I'm going to do content just not to get clients, but to get people to raise their hand and say, oh, I'm interested in you and what you do. And how can you support me? Your content will have a different feel about it and a different element about it.
Love that. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Okay. And that's it, is like people don't buy, what you do, they buy why you do it. And because the why is they're tied to that emotionally. And
Yeah.
they're like, "Ooh, that could help me. I
Mm.
want that."
Yeah. And that is that's the whole point of your content really is around, and your message and everything is for someone to raise their hand and go,
Mhm.
oh, I'm interested in that. Which is why I talk a lot about part of my principles are connecting, engaging, inviting, so that you're connecting with people, engaging with people, and then inviting people. Because just like it's interesting that a lot of people do content but never actually invite people to work with them, right? Or
Right.
this is can work with
Right.
them. And if you look at when you go into a shop, right? And I used to do projects, retail projects, right?
Mhm.
And I tell you, there was a really interesting one that we did where we added about 20, I think it's about 28% business over the next year to that one shop, right? Purely by putting up signs, and the signs was where to pay, right? And that's the only
Yeah.
thing we did. The whole project was going to do a whole big thing, and then when I looked around the project, I went, you know what? Where the tills are in this place, it was an old building which had lots of different parts to it.
Uh-huh.
It's it's not easy to know. So if you pick up something and you can't see where you're going to pay, you're going to put it
Right.
down and walk out,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then you'll go
Right.
past another shop and you'll see it right there, and it's easy, and you see the pay here sign, and you think, well, I'll
Mhm.
get it there. It's easier, right? And then the online world obviously come in and made it even more easier. So
Mhm.
so it's like the same with coaches doing your content. It's like you got where you're telling people to go. Where are you directing people? Where you go to a theme park or anything like that. You kind of go like, this is where you go. This is where you go.
Yeah.
You have IKEA in America.
IKEA, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I have one like
Quick.
20 minutes from me.
IKEA is fantastic, right? From my perspective, as a marketing
Yeah.
perspective, right?
The way
Yeah,
they
you go down
navigate
the
you.
arrows, right? How much
Mhm.
other crap do you pick up on the way that you don't actually
Right.
need, right? Or
Same
you
thing with
never ever,
Marshalls or
yeah,
TJ Maxx. Yeah.
yeah. And even the IKEA is brilliant, where you might go there specifically like, I want to get a bed, right? I want to get a bed for the old kids' bed, and
And you walk out with
you
a
have to go all the way
whisk.
round. You have to go all the way round, but then they take you through the marketplace bit to get to the tills. And the
Mhm.
marketplace is where they go, and then you get sidetracked elsewhere. So even
And
if
you
you
need
make a beeline, you can't
and
get out of that.
you need a turquoise whisk
Yeah,
to go with that bed. A turquoise whisk to go with the bed.
yeah. But that's the whole thing. If you look at your doing content and thinking, right, where am I taking people on this journey? And if you keep it all within the value journey, which is again, if you read the Go Giver, you'll understand
Mhm.
that. That's kind of where the coaches are really can change their content and their messaging around that whole thing really. Um, and then that's so going back to, I suppose, the original question, that's where for me getting coaches to understand this stuff and take away a lot of that BS that's out there around stuff,
Mhm.
like self-worth and all that. There's so much BS and stuff around that, and really just simplifying it, and then then impacting them. That's where my place is in making the world a better place, because for me,
Yeah.
it's like if there's a coach watching this and they have an epiphany moment and they go and build a massive successful coaching business, I've not got a problem with that at all, right? But
Mhm.
you get some people that go, well, I helped them, but they didn't pay me at all. They just used my thing or whatever. I got no worries at all there, because it will come back to you in other ways, in the right way. But also, what eats you up? So I had this where I really helped someone quite a few years ago, about 13 years ago, with their business. I gave them some tips around what to do. There, it was a very obvious marketing strategy for me, and I told them it, to help them out, because they were struggling, and they built a very successful business on the back of it, right? And then I was at a kind of party thing where they sort of said, oh, you're doing really well now, what's been the big moment? And I was like, yeah, she's going to talk about me. She's going to talk about me. Nothing, right? And that really eated me up for a little while. And then I had this realization when I'd done a bit more self-discovery that eating me up only affected me. It didn't affect them at all.
Right.
They didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Affect them at all. But it was eating me up. And actually, the reality was that I knew, right? So by me knowing that it was my strategy that helped them get that, build that business, it then made me more confident in what I do, because I know that worked, if you like. So in retrospect, I didn't need the gratification
Praise.
from them.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was a red herring of, that you kind of this, so we want people to say, oh, you're fantastic. And
that's on them though, Scott. And that's on them, because like, I'm a big proponent of giving credit where credit's due. Oh God, shout outs. I love to give shout outs and really, because it ain't just me. I ain't on this journey all by myself. I learned so much from you, from so many people, which is why you're on Empowered Conversations. I'm inspired by you. I love what I see, what I gain from being a part of your community. And it's like, it's all about, because what you give, keep giving. The go-giver is a perfect example of that. Give, and it's not about giving and people pleasing it. It's not pouring from an empty cup. See, a lot of people mistake the I give and I give and I give and people just take advantage of me. That's because you're allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. You're not allowing yourself to receive. So you have to be able to be open to receive as much as you're giving, because a lot of people think that they're just giving and that's what makes them a good person. Well, you have to allow yourself to receive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's massive. And that was massive for me. But enough, I'd come across that when I thought was receiving bad receiving compliments, and it opened up a whole world of receiving. But it's interesting. So there's an element to giving though. So when I talk about giving, it's right. And then it does create another problem for coaches particularly. So you'll see this, a lot of coaches will understand this, where they go, I do a lot of I think you'll know this from being around my world. I hate the word discovery calls. Right, they shouldn't do coaches don't call them discovery calls, please. Right, but they do a lot of discovery calls, and then they turn around and say, right. Well, I'll just very quickly. Right, I'll go for a bit of a tangent, but just very quickly. Everyone in the coaching world knows that discovery call is a sales call, right? Right. Yeah. Anyone outside the coaching industry has not got an effing clue what a discovery call is about. So. Go figure, right? So anyway, so I'm lost my tangent there. Yeah, so people do like loads of calls, right? Discovery calls, and then they'll go, oh, they love me, they're really great, they got a lot out of it, but they're not becoming clients, right? And then this is the difference. You can give value, but you've got to give value in a certain way that is actually right for how people receive it. So if you're on these discovery calls, which I hate, if you're going into solution mode of that thing for people, most people are not ready for that solution mode,
because
or they get a big solution and then it kind of go, well, that was so huge that I got for free, why do I need to pay to get any more? So there is an art that I teach around the way you got to give, and tactically in a way, but it's not just for you in terms of how you turn sort of like giving value into clients, but it's also easier for people to take it in a little bit. So and very simply, if you look at with the content, we do kind of like what and why is where you should specifically be talking about content and giving value. So if you look at the content that gives a lot of value, it's high value, but it's very much around what you need to do and why you need to do it. Whereas a lot of people go into solution mode, particularly coaches, and most people think, well, that's it now, I don't need you because I've got this out of it as well. It's like if everyone goes back to their start of their personal development journey, right, whatever that was for people,
Mm-hmm.
then if you remember it, when you did your first bit, it was like, right, tick box, personal development done. Right. Most people, I don't know what personal development is, and you go, oh, that was personal development, great, I've done that.
But personal development isn't something. It's just like you don't go to the gym once and you have a
Well,
physically fit
that's
body. Personal development is throughout your entire life.
exactly. And you realize afterwards, that when you get your second part of personal development or self-development in a way, you realize actually you're just at the very start of a long journey that's never going to end,
Yes,
because there's always another
that you
level.
become addicted to, that you
Yeah,
literally become addicted to.
yeah,
Because, and I say this all the time, you don't know what you're aware of until you're made aware that it
yeah.
even is a
You,
possibility. And
you
the
don't know what
more
you
that
don't know.
you allow
Yeah,
yourself and expand yourself to, what the infinite amount of possibilities that are available to you,
yeah.
I mean, that is a journey that is lifelong until you're
But if you go into solution mode with someone
not here.
straight away
Right.
for a free session where they're not paying
Hmm.
for it,
Right.
right?
Discovery
Then,
call.
yeah, just go out. And then their view is like, oh, I've done that. So then they don't value all for that. And then if you're trying to tell them, saying, well, this is the next step, then that's why they get so many people not do it. So it's even how
Yeah.
you handle them. They've got even a framework for everything around like how you handle that call and how so you're still giving value, and then you're presenting your offer in a certain way. And again, so a lot of people go, I need to give value, I need to give value, but they'll even do that at a wrong level, because they'll go to solution mode and then wonder why no one's sort of kind of ringing them up or saying, I want to work with you.
I love this, and I love your real keen awareness around this, because like you're speaking language that a lot of coaches that should be watching this would go, ah, aha,
Mm.
aha, aha.
But there's a reason. So I have 5 mindset masteries, right? One of them that I live by, and I think everyone should live by, and I always think this is a big turning point, one in particularly, like I say, is that you've got to come from your client's perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
when I used to do these projects and these retail projects and was sort of very successful with them, and and I got asked once around what's making part of the success, if you like, from it. And one of the things I always said, I always looked at it from a customer's point of view, never from our point of view,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And if you really do wear them shoes, then you see it from a completely different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then it's like this stuff. So I only kind of teach what one of the things I believe that is a bit of my secret sauce, if you like, is that the stuff, everything that I tell people to do and done, they know that I've done it. Right. So
Absolutely.
I
100.
speak from a different point of view, but because of that, I'm also able to then go, now let's look at it from your client's view. So most people go, right, so what do you do? And they'll tell me, and I go, right, if I'm your customer, your potential client, the first question I'm asking is, what does that mean for me? And so look, when you look at it from a different
Mm-hmm.
perspective,
Right.
it's huge. And so I feel this has been, for everything that I look at, it's kind of come secondary for me, but it's a big part of my mindset mastery of always looking at it from a client's point of view.
Yeah.
And then for me, so that's important for everyone, but for
Because
me,
that's why they're sitting in front of you, is because they're
yes,
not doing what you're doing, and
yes,
they want to learn how to
yeah.
incorporate that into their
And
lives.
my perspective of, because of, I suppose, what my genius is and what I'm good at, is I take that to another level by looking at I look at not my client's perspective, but my client's perspective. So your client's perspective. So it gives me a different viewpoint to question, challenge, and then say, right, so what can we do that's going to attract that person and come from that viewpoint, rather than just just do this and this, and it's amazing, like most people's marketing message, where they say, to attract leads and attract people, whatever,
Right.
is they're actually confusing the world a lot more. It's actually a lot simpler than what it needs to be, and we think it's too simple. If you're a
Right.
one of my fitness coaches was very successful, and we just went the message, lose your belly gut in the next 30 days. It was
Yeah.
as simple as that. And
Yes.
he tried to overcomplicate it constantly. I had to keep bringing, no, just keep it nice, and just keep it, keep it. because
Yeah,
people
like
know.
don't talk about diabetes
Yeah,
and blood pressure and getting off prescription drugs.
yeah,
Just talk about lose the belly. I
yeah,
gotcha. Zero
yeah,
focus, laser
yeah,
focus.
yeah. And then again, all the content was like we come up with content ideas. He was like,
Yeah.
we've got
Is
part
that
of
the third thing? Is that the third? You said you were giving us 5 steps. Is that the third? Laser
no,
focus?
that's no the five. No, I was going to say there's 5 mindset masteries, but that's more for the one that's really important is without it because it would be here for hours. But the
Oh,
main point is coming from a client's perspective, which coaches really struggle from. So even when you're doing
okay.
content and giving value, you look at it from your client's perspective because reality is if you too a lot of your content is too much for people to take in unless they've done some groundwork in before.
Yes.
So if you're coming from your client's perspective, well, if I come from their thing, one, your content will have much more empathy for them. It will give much more related to them, and so hence them two things together give much more value, and that's the thing that creates people go, wow, this person understands where I'm coming from. They're their person. So when then they see an invitation from you, like hand raiser, like download this, or if you want to get a call, that's why you get reactions to it because people have connected to it, related to it, and they can see that you're empathetic to what their issue is. Now, most
Right.
coaches are empathetic because nearly most coaches, like we talked to the start, come from they find their purpose by going through that experience themselves. So there's
Yes.
coaches out there
Exactly.
that help that do
Yeah.
amazing
We're.
work with helping people with abusive relationships because
hmm
they've got through that and they've come through the other side. They're doing fantastic, right? But reality is because they're coming from that place of gone through it and got through it, and so they do. It's still a very much a prescriptive rather than being inspiring.
Right. Yeah.
And this is why people in depression, for example, really struggle with doctors and stuff like that because everyone's telling them what to do.
Right.
If you look at the prescription with a doctor, this is what you do. Take this, do this. We'll go back to our school days then. Just do that. Sit there,
hmm
line up
hmm
there, do this, right? When I don't, it doesn't feel right. When actually the people we lean towards are then the people that actually inspire us in some way. And
Yeah.
then normally you'll find that they've been empathetic to where you're in. They've been through and they can really relate to you. And then people are really good at relating it, if you like, to in their content in terms of, wow, this really relates and connects with me. There's so many of my coaches, clients that come in when they kind of go, I felt like you was talking to me.
Yeah.
I felt like you really understood where I was, and I felt like you were almost it was just me you were talking about.
Right. Yeah. That makes, just again, using myself as an example and thinking about some of the things that I have persevered through, life's challenges, whether I was a child or whether I'm an adult. That makes, yeah, wheels are spinning.
So if you spin that around, I think, right, if someone's going through that at the moment,
hmm
what emotions was I feeling there? What was I feeling? What emotions was I going through? Right now, if you do your content on there, you can see how that would really connect with someone who's at the moment.
Yeah.
And again, if you look at a lot of people, I think the spiritual health coaches suffer from this a lot. People that do a lot of spiritual stuff,
hmm
they do a lot of great content, and they struggle to get clients. And the reason why is because they're talking at a level, if you like, where they're at,
Right.
and so the people they're attracting to their content is already people we're at there as well.
Exactly. And I'll, yep, yep, yep.
Whereas if you come from your client's perspective of where they're at, it might be one step, two steps behind. But if you come from that perspective, then all of a sudden you're very empathetic, you're very relatable.
In the very beginning,
Yeah.
when I first became certified as a health coach, I tended to people who would sign up and pay to work with me are ones that were, this was, already on their A game in life.
Mm.
And when I talk to a lot of the, people in our community there, it's like, it's similarly, we're the ones who are signing up for the courses and doing the things and
Mm.
reading the books like Go Giver.
Yeah.
And then the people who really, really, really needed to change the way that they're eating and fueling their bodies or the way that they're living their lives, they're the ones not
Mm.
there, but again, it's about like you said, meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. And you only have to go as much as they were probably hated, right? So if you go back to, I'm going to show my age a little bit here. I've been in my 50s, but but if you go back to with TV, come out with the adverts, if you like, come out, when you couldn't rewind TV, them old days. But
Oh God, yeah.
and the insurance companies were really good at this, because the insurance ad would come on, and it would go, and these are the days where our grandparents were sitting in the corner, they were only our age now, if you like, in their 50s or 60s, but they're sitting in the corner with their slippers on, right? And the insurance company advert would come on, and the insurance company would go, "Are you in your 50s and suffer from high blood pressure?" Right? And our grandparents would go, "Shush, everyone shush, This is about me. It's about me. Shush, everyone, be quiet. I need to listen to this."
Right.
But the great thing, that one statement at the start was just kind of, we're understanding where you're at. We're going to put it right there. Are you at this point, right? So it grabbed people's attention to it. So even though they were horrible, something like that, the reason why they worked was they were really good, them sort of companies, at relating to where people are at, rather than talking about content or coming from the content of people that you've already gone through that journey, which is where we're normally at. I can't, if I start talking about the content, if I start talking about where I am with my business and the stuff I'm doing now with the appointment setters and the closers and the scan and the big goal for next year about the £1 million in 2023, and coaches, we'll take on 200 coaches on the build and scale program, because I think I haven't quite done a mess, because it's hard to know, but I think 200 coaches will impact 1 billion lives if you look at the ripple effect and stuff like that. So that's the big vision, if you like, and goal for 2023. But if I talked a lot about that stuff as my content, I wouldn't. The only people that would really understand it, if you go, were people that are already there. So they're not my potential clients. Whereas what I do is I talk about, like with my clients and in my program in the Cecil Coach Society, I talk about the steps I took that actually probably 6 months ago, and even in the last mastermind ago, I was doing this 6 months ago, and I just want to share this with you now because it's right for them where they are now, but it's not up to date, if you like. It's almost like in backdrop, because I would you just attract people that are the one people because they're already gone through that process.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you come from a different point of view of really understanding your client's perspective and talk in that volume, that's when it becomes really relatable. Yeah. And that's what I did with myself. Like, that's where I changed myself, and then was able to really understand, actually, like, I had to be like this person, I had to be like that person. I can't be Tony Robbins, I can't. You would have all stuff. I couldn't. But I can't be that person. And as soon as I was myself and then related it to, where I was in that journey, to the people that I want to work with, like coaches that are struggling to get clients now, then that's why I'm incredibly relatable to coaches that are struggling, because, they'll know straight away from the conversation and go, you know what, I know that. And again, I know there's little things that there's feelings and emotions that we don't talk about. So a big one for me is, and I've got what I stand for above my thing here. I won't change the camera because I'll ruin it again. But one of the things that I've got in there is believing in them. So for me, my tribe is people that I'm connected to. It's not clients. This is where I took my tribe thing with sort of tribe, but for me, it's everyone that I'm connected to. And and I believe in them, and I totally do, until people prove me wrong otherwise.
Right.
I let people's actions now show me whether or not the thing. So like that person that didn't give me the credit, well, that was fine, but they showed me by the actions the type of person they are, and it wasn't a person that I want to be around.
Right.
So that was also fine, that they showed me in that way. But one of the things that I needed 3 years ago was just someone to really believe in me, and someone to think, and that's what I got, and so that become a big value of mine, of like actually believing in people, believing in coaches, and then I see people, and again, that coming from where they're at, I know that means so much to them, and then it's almost if you like, a level for me to keep up to. So I have to then show the actions that is true, you know.
Right. Right. Exactly.
And
And
you know, and that's you know, I wouldn't mind anyone talking to any of my clients behind my back, you know, because I know that shows up, you know. So
exactly.
yeah,
And what you just mentioned, and we're gonna have to, like, it's almost an hour and
I know.
20 minutes. But it's like the level, and I want to ask you this. Like, I
Yeah,
know that you experience imposter syndrome. I know I do. And I one day I had this epiphanic moment, because how much more, how much greater, how much, because we're on that journey. Can you
yeah,
imagine playing at the level that Tony Robbins, Oprah
yeah,
Winfrey, Brandon Burchard,
yeah, yeah,
the imposter syndrome that they
yeah,
feel? I
yeah,
mean, because when you really are, and because it is a heart centered, it's when you really
yeah,
have a heart for other people, a heart
yeah.
for humanity.
But,
And it's like, "Oh god, I'm already at this level. How much more of a level?"
but for me, imposter syndrome is, and and I get there's a lot of coaches that go into this a lot more detail and stuff like that, and I mean there's a lot more to it. But in my simple world, right, there's that you're gonna, and it's a bit I have to do for my clients, if you like talk to about, when they say like how's your week gone, they'll talk about, well, I didn't do this and didn't do that and all that, but what did we do, and then we'll say, oh, well, that was amazing because look how that can affect that person's life and blah 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 blah, and almost that you are good enough. Now
Mm,
the reality is, if you've got imposter syndrome, you wouldn't have it if you're not good enough.
exactly.
So there's that for starters.
Exactly.
The other thing as well, I think, with it for me,
Cold chills, cold chills.
yeah, the one thing that really um, got rid of it completely for me, because I had this people on a pedestal. I couldn't be up to their level, couldn't do what they do, and stuff like that. And who am I to say what I say when things? There's a lot of content I didn't put out because of that before. I would have, that's the reason why I didn't do the 14-day lives, first of all, because I
Yeah.
was, what's my stuff mean,
Scott, real quick, Empowered Conversations was
Yeah.
born through a 5-day live challenge. I was
Right.
paralyzed, fearful of going live. I could
Yeah.
I could do my cooking show videos and edit them and then share them, but going live,
I
like, I
know.
was stifled.
Okay.
And in 2020, beautiful time for me, I did Suzanne Evans' 5-day
Oh
go
yeah.
live challenge,
Yeah.
and it was about Facebook swaps with other people in that
Yeah.
that group, and that's how Empowered Conversations was
Awesome.
born. But
Yeah.
you were probably shocked to go, Stephanie was afraid of going live?
It
Yes.
was, yeah. I
Uh,
much I hate being on video. I don't watch videos back of myself. Which sometimes get in trouble because I mean that like when I did them 4-day live, they were live and just whatever happened, that was it. And there's one where I think a famous one where I cleared some wind out before I went live. Not realizing that I'd already gone live. Siobhan still finds that funny, reminds me, but that video is still there and out there, and because
I
it's like,
love that. I think
but
I
one of
remember
the
seeing that. Yeah.
yeah, but one of the now first of all it's shot, but then it's like, oh well, it is what it is, and the video was the content was so good. I thought, well, I can't take the content down because it was so good and helpful for people that would, so it is, at least people know real. And if it really upsets anyone, then they're probably not my ideal client anyway.
Right.
But one of the things that really helped me just quickly with imposter syndrome, quite recently actually, probably about start of the year actually, so just before the start of this year, so about November time last year, I joined a program, and there was a lot of imposter syndrome around there about getting to the next level, right?
Mhm.
And one of the reasons why I joined this program was there was people in there that were doing, similar to me, if you like, but a much high level, like 50 grand months, 100K months, people like that, right? And I thought, wow, I'm going to learn so much from these people. It's like the missing things, and I'm really interested in one of my skill sets is taking content and taking the context from the content, which a lot of people
Right.
can't do. So they just take content. This is why some courses don't work for people, because it's just content. You need to be able to implement the context from the content.
Yes.
So, and that's a skill of mine. So I thought I'm going to learn so much from this because I'm going to be able to be in, around these people and be able to contextualize exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. And I thought there'd be a lot of major talks, right? And here's the thing. When I got into these and got these people, they were doing nothing different. I almost felt like, I know all of this. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Right. And that for me cleared. So if you're really got imposter syndrome, what I would say is be around people that you think are a couple of levels ahead of you, because you'll soon realize that they're not. Right. And the thing is, your knowledge, there's been a post of mine somewhere about this, about that your knowledge, just because you're like, if you're a coach at the moment and you're struggling to get clients, has no relation at all to how good of a coach you are.
Right.
But most people think, I can't get clients, must be a bad coach.
Right.
Right?
No.
There's no relation to it. And if you go and mix with the people that are a level with you, or get a mentor or something like that, you know, then they'll soon make you realize that actually that your knowledge is way above. And the first thing I did is I did a thing with my principals, and I did I had a 3x3 formula, and I was joining this. A man of mine, it was just like high-end people, you know, and it's like, right. And it was, first thing was, right, this is going to show you how to do a program, how to create your program. And I was like, wow, this is going to be amazing, you know. So excited. It was funny. It was like 9 o'clock at night for me, and most people know I don't work that late. But so I was on it, and I like, they were going through it, and I'm going, right, I've done this already, because this is, you know, I've done this something similar when I create my own, and what I'm teaching people, and I was thinking, I'm teaching my clients a more advanced level of what they're teaching me, that I'm paying all this money, that a lot of money to go on. And that cured the imposter syndrome for me, because then when I had a session with my coach, I was like, I'm disappointed, but I'm disappointed because actually I realized I know a lot more than what I thought I did.
Absolutely, Scott. And I wanted to say, when you're talking about, like, you know, Lisa Nichols has this very powerful one-liner: surround yourself with people that make you stand up on your tippy toes. Yeah. This has been amazing. This has been an empowered conversation. I love it. You've been fabulous. So incredible. Like, wow. Like, I've been like, damn, download. Yeah, you're amazing.
Too much.
No. Like, gold nugget. What I mean is gold nugget after gold nugget. Download. Good thing. Good stuff. So Scott, we have got, like, your website. I've got that is in the description. Are you talk about anything that you're currently doing? Anybody can sign up for? Anybody? How can, like, people work with you? I know they can go to your website, but
yeah, the big one, man. The Build and Scale program is now open for the moment. This is the big one, because I've taken all of the, again, like what I've just been talking about seeing it from a point of view. I've joined all the big programs, right, and worked with people at big programs. All the frustrations that I had, and all of the frustrations that my clients have had, and then what I've been able to take them to, is I feel I've created a hybrid program which is super supportive and super transformative. So it's a Build and Scale program which combines mentoring, coaching, and training in it, and it's a 12-month program. Details on my website, successraw.biz or .co.uk, either one go to. It's Success Raw with RAW, and purposely because success at its rawest level. You know, again, if you ask Tony Robbins or anyone like that what makes it successful, they're giving you a clouded view. But if you go back to what they were when they weren't successful, it's a much rawer experience. So that's always why the branding's around that. But the Build and Scale program for me is my baby for the probably for a long time, because it's just a hybrid of everything. Where
and is any of this one-on-one with you, or is it just like a downloadable course? Okay.
So one of the things that I changed in it, just very quickly, is I don't want to get started, but one of the things that I've changed in it, that we're going to have from October, is we have the mastermind on the first Tuesday of every month at the moment, which is like 4 to half 5 my current clients. But instead of, it's an all-day mastermind from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'll be on a Zoom, right? And you can just dip in, dip out, dip in, dip out, whatever you want, Ruby. So
Love it.
you get me from that. So that's something where there's that people not, other groups you can't get hold of like Maria Free Leo, lovely stuff and great stuff, but can you get one-to-one time? It's always in big groups one. But doing this, and then we still have the mastermind things, because people get from that. But being able to just go dip in, dip out, and actually get me thing, and again, get rid of the imposter syndrome. One of the things that helped me was I'm comfortable now that I can go in the room with anyone, and they can go, right, this is the challenge I've got, and I can come up with something that's going to support and help them and move the needle forward.
Exactly.
So that way, I'm kind of putting my money where my mouth is, of saying, right, I'm available on Zoom all day. No one else can book anything, so we're just here, and people can dip in, dip out whenever they want, and everything gets recorded. They get, so they can see other people's reactions. So even things like that, so people get that one-to-one time with me through it, and in a private Facebook group, obviously, where they can get personal attention from me as well.
And this starts on October 8th.
Well, the program is now live to enroll. There's so much. There is a lot more stuff that everyone gets a personal one-to-one onboarding session, and the training stuff as well. There's so much stuff already in the training. It's unbelievable. So yeah, that's for me. It's I built it on the program that I wish that I could have joined, and if I was building the perfect program for my clients, this is the hybrid perfect program, because it needs to be. Programs easily can't just be all online course or big groups. The group stuff is great for community wise, but you have to be. And the reason why people join in things and they go, oh, but they've done really well, but I haven't been able to do it, right? And then you get down on yourself because you think, well, I must be stupid because they've done it and they've got a success. It's not. It's people's different level of being able to translate content to contextual. So
I love that.
And that's why them course things and the group things are really hit and miss with a lot of people. So for me, it's a hybrid of everything that I'm really super excited and stay. And they always just that we're going to take 200 coaches through it it's a 12-month program, so it's not a short one. It's not a 90 days and then
right.
It's a proper 12-month mentoring program to take you from zero to all the way to where I am at now, and then and then 200 people. I think conservatively that would impact 1 billion people with the ripple effect and everything. So that's a big game for it.
So there's 7 billion people on the earth. 7 billion.
Yeah.
Hey, that's 1/7, y'all. That's.
Yeah, but look how far removed we are from it. It used to be 7 times big, but I think now it's down to 3 people removed from anyone else in the world or something, isn't it? Or something. If you're online now, that even if you wanted to get in touch with Joe Biden, which I'm not sure if you would, but if you the chances are that through your online connections now, that you could contact getting someone who will know someone, and you'll only be third removed from someone that actually can contact.
Absolutely, because it used to be 7, and now it is 3. Yes.
So reality impacting 1 billion people. If you think of a coach, and also again, there might be 7 billion people on here, but if you're a coach and say like you help someone deal with abusive relationships, right? The way they're going to be to every one of their friends around them, the way they're going to be to their partners, so the way they're going to be to their kids, even if they've got kids now, future kids, the way their kids are going to be with their kids and their friends and everything.
Right.
It's generational. So it's massive. Yeah, that's my why. That goes back to the original question. That's my why. That's me.
Yes.
That my part of it is understanding not only what my why is, but where my role is in creating that why. So.
Yeah. Scott, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
We've had so many. Christina was on, and Grace was on.
Is there any questions on there?
Let's see. Well, Christina asked, "What if you do multiple things?" But we discussed that. Like, as she was asking these questions, you were pretty much like laying it down, and she said, "That's how I feel about it about it. I really love them all. They are all interactive. Like, I think because she does multiple types of coaching works, I could understand if it was different types of jobs. And she says, that's how I used to be back 5 years ago. And then she also says, I am constantly working on taking stuff off my website. I think this is when you were talking about, like, like having, doing, oh, this person did content on this day. I think I'm going to talk about that. And she's talking about, as I put stuff on, and then she's just taking it down almost as quickly as she's putting it on.
Awesome.
But she had, hold on one, let's see. How do you show people that coaching is important when you learn so much on your own? That was a big question. You want to answer
So,
that real quick? She
yeah,
says,
go on.
how do you, this was in the very beginning, how do
Yeah.
you show people that coaching is important when you learned so much on your own?
What from? I don't think I quite understand this. Which means
That was like we were talking about, like, okay, so you are in the business, like you're saying that you're not an empowerment coach, but you are creating roadmaps
yeah,
and processes that coaches like myself and
yeah,
Grace and Christina can all use to attract more and impact more people.
right, yeah.
But
So
you didn't necessarily hire a
so
coach. You learned this on your own.
yeah, well, there was a bit of so it was a bit of hiring coaches and doing it and then experimenting.
Okay.
What was the question again? So now I understand that. Ask what's the question?
Okay. She says, how do you show
Yeah.
people that coaching is important? Like, how would you show somebody
Right.
that hiring somebody like me, her, or Grace
Yeah.
is important if you haven't done that yourself? I think
Right.
is you've learned all
So
your
yeah. So the easy answer to that one is anything that you're doing content wise is, and you need to ask yourself this really question about, is it inspirational and you're inspiring? So you're showing people, like, if you think of inspiring, you're showing people a world that it can be. People aspire to stuff, and this is why we attracted so many people. I've seen them do it, and the reason that it would go, oh my god, that was so inspirational, because they're talking about their story. They're talking about their journey, but they do it in a way where it's not a glazed version of that. It's not a unrealistic version. This is achievable for everyone.
Yeah.
So if you literally looks about the being more, how can I be more inspirational to thing rather than being very prescriptive, because most again probably falls in that thing about do this, do that. But no, but more, this is why you need to do this, because this is what happened to me when I did this. I struggled with meditation for a long time, but it was actually the people really, this is where meditation has really helped me. This is why I did it. This is the sort of meditation I did. And then as I tried meditation, I struggled with it. And then I because you naturally, if you're interested in something, the universe will show you stuff that's around that. And then someone just made an off comment on a podcast I was listening to, I can't remember who it was, and just made an off comment about, you get thoughts. Oh, it was I really can't remember oh god, I can't remember his name. I can picture it, but I can't remember his name. The Indian guy, I can't remember his name.
Vishen Lakiani or
no.
or no, I know you're talking about he has a voice like yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, he speaks like you. Yes.
But anyway, it's it's about letting thoughts come in, because I found when I first started meditating, for example, I got more thoughts come up, more content ideas, really stupid things like that. And he said about let the thoughts come in and then let them go out. And then so that was a big thing. So it's about being inspirational, talking about your journey from going a little bit back to what we said about, which would have answered the question about coming from a client's perspective, coming from their perspective, rather than coming from your perspective. And then people go, well, how did you get that? And go, well, I got coached. I went coaching.
Right.
And so sharing that part of you about what you did to do there, and that is more inspirational around, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do.
I'm listening, but I'm telling you, I've got to find. He's really big, and he's got this beautiful, peaceful. God, because Siobhan talks about him a lot.
I've got Dirk Shopper in my head now, but it's not Dirk Shopper. Oh, Deepak Chopra. It's not
It's
him.
not Deepak. He's a
no.
young guy. He's got beautiful
Oh no,
eyes.
it's someone else different than we're talking about them. Oh, you're talking
Okay.
about Jay Shetty, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm talking about Jay Shetty.
Yeah.
You're not talking about Jay Shetty.
No,
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. Anyway,
We're giving a shout out to Jay Shetty anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, that will answer that question. If it's
Yeah.
more inspirational coming from their perspective, rather than trying to be prescriptive and share their journey of what coaching's done for them, because then people go, "Oh, maybe I need coaching."
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that it? Was that the only question? No more questions on there? Well,
That was the only question. That was the only question she was making, because she's a coach herself. Like again, it's again like with my podcast with Empowered Conversations, the people that really need to be listening to the inspirational conversations that I'm having with like people like yourself. They're it's people like Grace and Christina and Siobhan and Carol Boston, and they're the ones who are tuning in, and we're all supporting each other, and we're all
Yeah, that's why when you said it, I said absolutely. Because I know that you're connected to a lot of coaches, and so and the coaches I'm connected, obviously, because will go on both streams, that they'll hopefully get some value from it.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this has been a wonderful episode. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. His website, the hold on. I got to find it. It's the Build and Scale. Build and Scale program. Yeah, that's live right now. So, well, hold on. You stay right here. I'm just going to end the broadcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And any of those watching on the replay, ask questions, because Scott is obviously tagged, and he will can come back and answer your questions. Bye, guys.
Super grateful. Thank you.